Oh, today is such a marvelous day, is it not, ladies and gentlemen? And you want to know the reason why it's so marvelous? Okay, I'll tell you. There's actually two reasons why it's so great. Okay, the first reason is today I'm filming this video for the St. Jude Children's Hospital charity live stream that I'll be hosting on December 21st. So if you happen to be watching this video live during the stream, make sure to check out that link below in the description and let's keep those donations up. But as for the second reason why it's such a marvelous day, well, suffice to say, today we will be talking about the objectively best girl in all of anime that ever did best girl, best girl. Go ahead and guess who it is. Don't worry, there are no wrong answers. I'm just kidding. If you didn't guess Rukia from Bleach, congratulations! You're wrong! And your prize for being wrong is to go out and read the entire Bleach manga right now to understand how truly wrong you were. Because once you understand how great Rukia is, I don't know who else you could have even suggested for best girl, but you'll understand your inconsistency right there. And also right here, Ichi Rukia is the one true pairing that will lead you to greatness. So there you go. Don't worry, don't worry. I'm not going to go on and on about Ichi Rukia in this video. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm definitely going to go on about Ichi Rukia. Honestly, at this point if you're watching this during the live stream, you could probably get up and go grab yourself some Mountain Dews or some pizza or something. It's like, all right, he'll be blabbing about Ichi Rukia for like the next 3-4 minutes. It'll be okay. Hey, listen, all right, Bleach has been over for over 3 years now. I don't get a lot of opportunities to vent this anymore, okay? So right now, we're doing this. Okay, gotta calm down a little bit there. All right, now, today we're gonna be talking about Sode no Shirayuki, Rukia's gorgeously elegant Zanpakuto sleeves of white snow, okay? It's an ice type, or rather cold type Zanpakuto, because unlike Toshiro Hitsugai's Yorimaru, which focuses on, freezing water and moisture, making ice and like throwing ice and ice shards at the opponent, Rukia's is more about the cold element to that. So ice is just in general part of that, but its whole purpose is not like how Hiyorimaru operates. She doesn't create giant ice shards to like throw at the opponent or something. Some of her abilities do involve that, but the bigger picture of it is basically just lowering body temperature, and that's how she utilizes her sword, okay? Fun fact, though, we don't find that until much, much later into the story. In fact, when Rukia's Zanpakuto was first revealed during the Arrancar arc, when she finally got her Shinigami powers back, and she was going up against D-Roy Linker, one of Grimmjow's Fraxion. I think it was like Arrancar number 16 was D-Roy. He was like the hammerhead shark, modeled Arrancar. So she goes up against him, and we see her abilities, and it's easy just to say, oh, it's just ice. She uses ice in a less efficient way of Toshiro Hitsugai, because, yeah, Hiyorimaru, in terms of the ice and cold type Zanpakutos, I mean, it does have free reign with that. Although I would say there are a few aspects about Sode no Shirayuki that, maybe even Hiyorimaru wouldn't be able to do as well. So we'll get to that. But, you see Hiyorimaru, and Hiyorimaru can create all these different shapes of ice, and, Toshiro makes dragon wings out of ice for his bankai and all that stuff. Compared to that, Sode no Shirayuki at the very beginning has like these pre-programmed attacks or dances. Okay, so he has like a Some no Mai, Tsukishiro, and that just creates this it's white moon is the ability. She stands in this circle, and everything inside of this one circle in the perimeter just gets frozen from the ground to the air in this giant pillar of ice. Now, that's pretty impressive the first time she uses it, and D-Roy is kind of an idiot because, he's in the middle of this circle, Rukia activates it, and he's like, well, silly girl, I'll just jump in the air! You can't freeze something that's in the air, right? I mean, that's just against physics, right? No, of course, the white moon takes effect and freezes everything from the ground to the very heavens to the sky, and D-Roy gets frozen and immediately dies right there, okay? So, D-Roy wasn't all that impressive. I don't know if there was anybody out there that was expecting D-Roy to do something really cool, but he didn't. So, it's a pretty impressive ability, but it's like, alright, you have to be standing in this exact spot in order for it to work. It requires Rukia to get up close to the enemy, like standing right next to them to activate the dance. So yeah, you'd figure at this point, though, that Hiyorimaru is a little bit more versatile with using the ice than Rukia's Sode no Shirayuki is. Now, her second dance, Sugi no Mai Hakuren, that gives you a little bit more stuff to work with, because that basically just allows Rukia to fire a blast of icy wind whenever she wants from her sword. She basically takes out her sword, she strikes the ground with it a few times, some snow just kind of sprinkles up out of the ground, and she strikes the epic pose, and she's like, Hakuren, and then thrusts forward, and then this like ice ripple like wave just comes out and attacks the opponent from a distance, okay? And I'm like, alright, that's something better. Now we're cooking with gas, or cooking with ice, I guess, whatever. The point is, she doesn't have to be standing right next to the opponent in order to freeze them like with White Moon. Now she can stand at a distance, fire at somebody on the ground, or fire at somebody up on the air, and she can use this attack in consecutive actions, okay? So that's pretty good there. Now, as for her third dance that we get to see, to me, personally, it seems to be backsliding a little bit, because I'm like, alright, her first attack, she has to be standing right next to the opponent, and it only affects a very, limited perimeter, but it does have a very long range in terms of the sky to the ground, but still, you don't really affect anything else around that. If your opponent just sidesteps Tsukishiro, they're not going to be affected by it. Hakuren is pretty good, but it seems to not pack as much of a punch as Tsukishiro, okay? Because when she used Tsukishiro against D-Roy, it acted as if it, like, froze him to the core and, like, killed him immediately. Whenever she used Hakuren against Grimmjow, and I understand Grimmjow is a much stronger Arrancar than D-Roy is, but when it froze Grimmjow or anybody else that she really used it on, it seemed like it just froze, like, the top layer of the skin. It didn't really penetrate or do any more damage there. So that might be a drawback. Like, it's a more versatile ability, and she can use it. It's much faster than Tsukishiro and less risk, but it doesn't pack as much of a punch, okay? But then, her third dance, San no Mai, that she used against Aranjero Arueri, it's Shirafune, which means white blade, okay? So, in the fight against Aranjero, Sode no Shirayuki is actually broken. Okay, her sword in its Shikai is actually broken at the blade here, and so she kind of just raises up the blade because she's being impaled by Kaion Shiba's, what was Kaion Shiba's Zanpakuto? I can remember what this is. It's, Rankle, Nejibana, that was it. Rankle the seas and the skies, Nejibana. So, Aranjero kind of impales Rukia with that. Her sword's broken. She kind of raises her broken sword up to Aranjero's face and activates San no Mai, which reforges the sword with ice, and then impales Aranjero right in his head, and that destroys his, dome, and all the water and all of his masks float out, and then the entire octopus thing he created just dissolves right there. Aranjero was honestly pretty weak when you consider he has a very obvious point. You just have to hit him once, and it shatters, and then he just dies. It's like in a video game when you're going up against a boss, and it's like this boss is this huge, undulating tentacle monster, and it's like, oh no, how am I supposed to possibly defeat this thing? And the video game has a feature where it, like, lights up the obvious target. Like, no, just hit him once here and everything will be good, That's kind of how Aranjero reminded me there. But my point is, with San no Mai, it was kind of situational because the blade was already broken. So, if the blade isn't broken and she used San no Mai, I guess she could just use ice to extend the sword, normally, kind of like Ichimaru's Shinso, maybe in that sense. To be fair, also, when she activated San no Mai, it appeared to, flash freeze everything around him, Aranjero, because she impaled Aranjero with the ice blade, and his entire body and the entire room was frozen as well. So, maybe, the blade doesn't have to be, broken in order to use it. Maybe under normal circumstances, when she was going to use San no Mai, when she's not being impaled, and it's like a last-ditch effort, maybe if she's, standing at a distance and, raises up her sword like this and activates San no Mai, Shirafune, the blade would then extend with ice, like Shinso, impale anything in its wake, and anything being pierced by this, the surrounding area just freezes. Not as cold as it gets later on in the story during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc after she masters her blade, but gets pretty damn cold, suffice to say. By the time Byakuya and Zomari showed up, the entire room was still frozen solid, okay? So that seems to be something that's useful there, okay? So those are her three main dances that she uses before the time skip and before she goes to train at Ichibei's palace and learn more about her Zanpakuto when the Quincy's arrive, right? She also has another ability that she has this little ribbon that just hangs out next to it too. That's pretty cool. She also has another ability that she uses against Rudabon, the Ekhekies leader, the execution squad leader for the, the Espada that Aizen controls and everything. So Rudabon is the captain of that unit, and he just basically turns into a tree for his Resurrection. His Resurrection is called Arbol. And in the manga, what Rukia does, brilliant tactic, fighting a tree with ice. I wonder who's gonna win there. Trees are notably to be immune to any sort of cold. You can look outside right now in the winter, check out all those trees that have leaves on them. Yep, yeah, so no. She uses Sode no Shirayuki, she pierces the ground with it, and the ice and the cold travels along the ground as like a root, and then hits the tree, and then it just freezes the branches so he can't create any more soldiers, right? Now, in the manga, this was just a technique she uses, it wasn't given a name. In the anime, it was called Juhak, or White Tree. So, okay, I like that name. It doesn't go along with her dances, But I'm assuming the dances are like her main techniques that Sode no Shirayuki actually explains to Rukia. Because, oh, by the way, this is a perfect time to show you Sode no Shirayuki's manifested form during the filler arc. It resembles a Yuki Onna, a Japanese, woman that hides, like a kind of a yokai that hides in the snow and lures men into the snow to lay down and never wake up after that. But in this case, it's a good Yuki Onna, right? She looks very gorgeous. Her main techniques are the dances, but, Rukia is a pretty versatile fighter. She can use, and she's good at Kido as well. And there's a big part of Kido involved in this too. So yeah, she could probably mess around with the cold and the ice and make other techniques. It's just the dances are her main ones. So we don't get much more of Rukia after that. In the anime, it was expanded upon a little bit when they were fighting against Yami, when Renji and Chad and Rukia and everybody were teaming up to fight against Yami, Espada Zero, before Kenpachi and Byakuya showed up. She used her Tsukishiro to kind of freeze Yami's arm, but the dude was just too big, so it's not going to work on him. Eventually, Byakuya, Kenpachi, Mayuri, they all show up and take down Yami Rago that way. But yeah, we don't get very much more of Rukia up until the point where she has to leave because Ichigo loses his power. You know what? In preparation for this video, I had to go back and watch this episode, and don't get me wrong, it's one of the best episodes of Bleach, and it turns out to be a filler episode mostly. The episode called Arigato, or Thank You, where Ichigo and Rukia just spend like one final day just hanging out. They go ice skating, they watch, fireworks, they're walking home together. They can tell that they care about each other, and at the very end of the episode, Rukia's about to say goodbye, and she's like, well, don't be sad, I'll still be here all the time. You can't see me, but I'll be watching you. And Ichigo's like, oh, great, that's all I need. And I'm like, oh my god, they are not the perfect couple ever. You can't tell me that. Oh, it's such a great episode, really, honestly. In terms of filler, it's probably one of my best, if not my favorite of all time, really. But damn, you get weepy at the end of it. You really do. I cried. I can admit that. I don't care. Quit judging me. But anyway, yeah, so Rukia, she fades away from Ichigo's sight, and then we go into the time skip, and then boom! Rukia's back at the end of the Fullbringer arc. She gives Ichigo his powers back once again. Beautifully poetic how Kubo did that, isn't it? Also, isn't it beautifully poetic that Rukia's blade, Sode no Shirayuki, is, sleeves of white snow. It's a white sword, white hilt, white scabbard, and Ichigo's Zangetsu is typically a black sword, in his bankai, and his bankai gives him a black outfit to wear, black and white, complementary colors, I'm just saying, symbolism, right? Okay, so after that, though, after the Fullbringer arc, after Rukia fights against Riruka a little bit there and, helps out with that battle, we get to the meat of things. We get to the 1,000-year Blood War arc where she goes and trains in the Soul Palace and she learns more about her sword. We learn there that, no, it's not like an ice-type Zanpakuto the same as Yorimaru. Sode no Shirayuki's function is to decrease the body temperature of the user, in this case, Rukia. So basically how this works is that Sode no Shirayuki is an extension of Rukia, and I know what you're going to say, all Zanpakutos are pretty much an extension of Shinigami because it's part of their soul that actually makes a Zanpakuto what it is, right? But no, it's more applicable in battle here, okay? Because with the sword lowering Rukia's body temperature to sub-zero levels, it actually affects the thing around her too. So she can lower her body temperature in the surrounding air to like below 50 degrees Celsius, causing the moisture in the ground to freeze, causing like earthquakes and ice quakes and shit. She can cut you and it's so cold that your blood will freeze on contact, sort of like cartilizing a wound except with ice, where your ice just freezes your blood and you're not even bleeding but you got cut. And she can even reach absolute zero in her Shikai nonetheless. This isn't even a bankai ability. In her Shikai, she can reach absolute zero. Now she can only maintain that state for 4 seconds. I'm sure she's improved with time, but in that 4 seconds, she slices Asnote and he just gets frozen to the core. Well, not to the core, but he gets frozen pretty solidly right there, and the entire area also gets frozen. It's pretty much impossible, from what I understand, with like modern science to reach absolute zero, so you could have a question of how exactly she did that, but it's anime, it's Ryatsu, so you could look at it from that perspective, and it's just like, she magicked her way into absolute zero. At any rate, it was like negative 270 something degrees Celsius. It doesn't need to be absolute zero, okay? If it could have been 260 degrees something Celsius Celsius negative, that's still pretty damn cold, right? That's the point. It's really cold, so don't touch her. Honestly, don't touch her. If you even get close to Rukia while in this state, just in the immediate air around her, if you touch her flesh, you'll just get frozen to your core, so be very careful. Rukia also has to be very careful in this form because when she used that absolute zero technique, she actually stayed in that state longer than 4 seconds, and it caused her thumb to get cut. It was just a minor slice, like a paper cut. She was bleeding a little bit, wasn't that big of a deal, but she thought about it, like, she probably only stayed in the form for maybe 5 seconds or 6 seconds, but imagine if she stayed in that state for like 10 seconds, her body would literally get, destroyed from the inside out, because she's literally lowering her body temperature to crazy sub-zero degrees, and if she's not careful when she raises it back up, then her body will suffer permanent damage. Okay, so it's a very difficult, and Rukia and Byakuya even talked about that. It's a very hard Zanpakuto to master with like this balancing act of maintaining temperatures and stuff, okay? And yeah, when she does retain her regular temperature, she has to raise it back up very steadily, okay? But this technique wasn't even enough to take down Asnaut. He activated his Volt Stendig after that, went into his freaky nightmare form, started to affect Rukia with his fear power. I also love that scene. This was a little bit earlier in the fight, but when Asnaut's little fear thorns and his fear goo was trying to invade Rukia. That sounded wrong, but no, he used that fear goo substance, that stuff, that black viscous fluid, and it wasn't affecting Rukia, and Rukia's like, that's because I'm not alive right now. And Asnaut, you see his eyes that just go, what the fuck? He's like, okay, lady, whatever you say, what's going on here? And of course, Rukia was honestly just trying to get like a psychological advantage there, like what people should be doing in fights. Be like, oh yes, the reason why your ability's not working? Well, that's because I'm not a living creature right now. She's not, she's being, hyperbolic a little bit there, because what her ability is, she's talking about, oh no, I lower my temperatures so much that, I'm not really, my cells aren't vibrating, so nothing can invade my body because it's so cold. That's what she really means. But saying, I'm not living right now, that makes your opponent guess, like, am I fighting a zombie? Is Giselle around? What's going on here, right? So that was pretty cool. So yeah, Byakuya shows up though, and he goes up against Asnaut again for a rematch, we think. But at the end of the chapter, when Asnaut goes all freaky fear and he's like bubbling out of himself and everything, Byakuya goes up to Rukia and just kind of puts his hand on his shoulder, and she's like, Rukia, I believe in you. You're going to be the one to take him down. I believe in your power. Go, Rukia, go and do it. And of course, Byakuya hasn't really been the best older brother to Rukia. They've known each other for like 40 years, and they haven't even spoken really up until the whole, execution thing with Ichigo. So this was a big moment for Rukia, where she kind of finally got her brother's approval here. And so Rukia just kind of takes a deep breath, and she's like, okay, we can do this, Sode no Shirayuki. And then she activates it. Bankai, Haka no Togame. Censure of the White Mist. Also, White Mist punishment or White Mist penalty. The kanjis that are used are, mist and penalty or punishment. Okay, the White Mist censure, though, I like because it sounds kind of legal. Sounds like a legal document. You're being censured, So I don't know. I'll go with that. Whatever. So what does it actually do? Well, her bankai is certainly not something that creates some crazy effect. It honestly doesn't even really seem like an attack that Rukia can, the bankai that she can fight in for very long periods of time. When she activated her bankai against Asnaut, which was the only time she used it in the story, which I guess one is better than nothing, right? Basically an explosion of just absolute zero, sub-zero temperatures just erupted from her at the epicenter, okay? In the form of this white mist that just like flashed around the area, and everything in range of this, buildings, plants, living things, quincies with the letter F, happens to be whatever they are, get frozen, and this time there is no debate. Frozen to your core. Your atoms get frozen. Your protons get frozen. Is that even possible? I don't care. This does it, alright? So, Asnaut gets frozen to his very core and just cracks and breaks and just disappears into the haze. Alright? Now, Rukia, on the other hand, turns from the best waifu to the best wife. Right? Check this gorgeous display out, alright? She gets freaking Elsa'd from Frozen. I mean, seriously. You got the awesome outfit, the tiara, her hair goes white, her sword turns into translucent ice, and she looks gorgeous, right? Now, in a lot of ways, she can't really move when she looks like this. She's basically an ice statue in this form, okay? Because she activates her bankai, she looks like this. She tries to move her hand just a little bit to kind of move, and when she tries to move her wrist, it just cracks. The ice cracks. So, and also her sword goes pure ice as well. Everything in the sword, the blade is just pure ice. You could see right through it, okay? And so, when she tries to move, Byakuya goes to kind of grab her and stop her. When Byakuya touches her in this form, he starts to freeze too, like his fingers begin to frost over, but he's like, Rukia, you need to just relax. It's a splendid bankai, but you have to relax and let it melt slowly. So from what we at least see, and keep in mind, you know, it takes like 10 years for a normal Shinigami to really master a bankai to get to the point where you can use it in battle, and, you know, we get to see her 10 years later as the new captain of Squad 13, so I'm sure she's improved with it since then, absolutely, like, that's the whole reason she became captain. But as far as the time she used it against Asnot, it was like a one-hit KO kind of ability. It was basically sheer cold from Pokemon. It's the one-hit ice, you know, kill move, you know, sheer cold, and it just hits your opponent and it just knocks him out immediately, okay? That's what it is. Because once she activates Hakano Togame, big ice explosion, everything that gets hit by or even touches this mist gets frozen to the core and just ended right there. But Rukia herself, while looking absolutely gorgeous, cannot move. Maybe now she can move. Maybe she's improved it a bit where she activates her bankai and she can actually move around in this state a little bit. But, you know, if Asnot didn't die or if he avoided the attack and got out of range, it does seem to be a really long range. I'm sure Byakuya had to Shumpo the hell out of there. Like, Rukia, I believe in you. Go use your bankai. I'll be waiting over there like a kilometer away watching you. Hold on. Shumpo, and then Hakano Togame, and then Byakuya came back, right? But yeah, if Asnot avoided the attack, Byakuya would have had to fight him and end him that way, because there's no way Rukia would have been able to do anything in the state that she was in. Asnot might have not have been able to touch her, because if he touches her, he might get frozen too, because like anything that even gets close to Rukia freezes solid. But I don't know, because the way that she looked, it looked really fragile in that state until she raised her body temperature back up, right? So maybe Asnot could have just, like, if he managed to evade it and then come back, he could have just tossed something at Rukia, like a large enough boulder, and it would have just boom, shattered her like a statue. Who knows? But that's like 10 years ago, before the end of the manga. At this point, she's a captain. She's trained. I'm sure that it might be still a very dangerous bankai to use. Might not be applicable in every single scenario, but it gets the job done, right? So yeah, that's Hakano Togame. We also get to see it during Jump Force in the video game, which I don't know if her eyes look a little weird here in this screenshot, but alright, I'll go along with it, right? And of course, you got that cool artwork from Brave Souls. That's pretty neat too. I don't play Brave Souls, but I like Brave Souls just for providing more Bleach artwork, especially stuff I can use for thumbnails and stuff, so thanks to Brave Souls, right? But anyway, yes, I would love to spend the remaining, how long have we been going? About over 20 minutes. I would love to spend the next 15 minutes preaching the gospel of Ichirukia to all of you. So I will. Alright, so, no, okay, I'm not gonna do that. But no, yeah, Rukia, my favorite character in Bleach, great character, great sword, and yes, Ichigo Zangetsu will be coming up after this. But for right now, thanks for enjoying the video, thanks for being part of the stream for the St. Jude Children's Hospital. Once again, if you're watching this live, make sure to check out that link below and donate to a good cause. Alright, well, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. This will be Tekking101, signing out. I wasn't kidding, by the way. If you think there's some other best girl out there, you gotta read Bleach. That's a required material for you. But otherwise, have a good one, everybody. Signing out.